Hello, this is Michael Wehard broadcasting here from Swarthmore College's WSRN 91.5 FM. We're really excited to have a special guest here today, Amanda Licastro, and she is a digital scholarship librarian here at Swarthmore. Amanda, we're so excited to have you. Could you please introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you so much for having me, Michael. I am Amanda Licastro, the Digital Scholarship Librarian at Swarthmore Libraries. I've been here since December, so I'm new to Swarthmore, and I was previously an English professor at Stevenson University in Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, that's great. I actually didn't know that you were previously a professor. So I wanted to ask a quick kind of follow-up to that. How did you make that transition? Were you always involved with digital scholarship or library science or things like that while you were a professor?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did my PhD in digital humanities at the CUNY Graduate Center, which has a program that really specializes in digital scholarship. And although my program was based in English literature and I did study book history and writing studies, I was always interested in alternative academic careers, specifically thinking about how I could still study the history of publishing technologies and still teach and work with students, but also support other faculty who are interested in integrating digital scholarship into their research and pedagogy. So I did a fellowship in my graduate program called the Interactive Technology and Pedagogy Program, and that certificate really helped me learn how to ask the big questions about the kinds of technology we're using in the classroom and help faculty think through how they're integrating technology into their scholarship and teaching in really ethical, accessible ways. So that experience really helped me think about the wide variety of careers my PhD in the humanities could lead me to.
Well, that's really great. And I think that's so neat how you're trying to find, if I could say, this unique position that matches you and your experience. I'm still searching for the unique position that matches me. So you were teaching courses, though, in your previous role?
Yeah, so I had a very traditional faculty role. I helped design a 5-course sequence in digital scholarship for the English department at Stevenson University. It included courses like digital publishing and grant writing, and some community service classes as well. And during the pandemic, that university hit some financial hardship, so I started thinking about what kind of institution would give me long-term stability and really ethically match my goals and what I wanted to see for the future of my career. This position at Swarthmore really does align with so many of the things that I believe are important, things like the fact that the campus is going carbon neutral and ending their reliance on fossil fuels, the fact that it's a loan-free school, and that it's a liberal arts institution. So I myself was educated in a liberal arts institution, and obviously my PhD is in the humanities. So I was looking for a school that really valued the humanities, but that was interdisciplinary and let students combine the humanities with other disciplines.
Well, I think that's really awesome. I think I need to build a better sales pitch for myself, like figuring out how I fit in. I'm involved here with the radio station. I love doing that, and I really had no idea I was going to get involved in that. So I guess for me, I've kind of just what I've been involved with keeps unraveling. But I hope that I can get to that point where I start to really know where I fit in and find the right areas where I match what's needed at the college.
I think it takes everyone a long time, especially in academia where we spend a lot of time studying a very narrow topic. And the dissertation writing process in particular can be very isolating. And you get tunnel vision about what it is that you're an expert in or what you're a specialist in. But most of us have wide-ranging interests and experiences. So this position as the digital scholarship librarian allows me to pursue a lot of different paths. So a lot of my experience was in supporting digital projects using educational technology. So things like WordPress, other digital publishing platforms like Omeka, Scalar. These are all what we call content management systems, platforms that allow people to put things on the web in an open access, open source way, but that's really plug and play, right? That like anyone can learn to use pretty easily. But as I developed my skills and really spent a lot of time in the classroom teaching, I realized that I had a growing interest in emerging technologies. So the tools that are a little less common, a little more experimental. So I designed a 2-year grant project on integrating virtual reality in the classroom when I was at Stevenson University. And that was very systematic, where I had 19 courses using the technology. And I was giving pre and post surveys to see if it was increasing learning engagement. And I was looking at the differences between how these emerging technologies could be used in the sciences versus the humanities. And that experience really gave me insight into how could we look at technologies where we don't have a lot of data and that they're constantly evolving, and still understand how to use them, again, thinking through ethical and accessible applications. So increasing access to knowledge rather than creating more barriers to accessing knowledge.
So I was going to ask you about like what excites you about digital scholarship, and I feel like you kind of got into that there. Is it what virtual reality might enable us to do? Is that what excites you, or is it the virtual reality itself, or is it not specifically virtual reality, but maybe some other type of digital media or digital technology?
That's a great question. And I would definitely say it's broader than that. I'm part of the accessibility working group here at Swarthmore, and I've always really been dedicated to the idea of accessibility. And I do mean that in the multiple definitions of that term. So we're talking about access in terms of economic access, right? Like what is available to people and how can we democratize the availability of technology in order to diversify the industry and diversify career options for folks so that they have equal access to technology. I also mean accessibility in the terms of neurodiversity and physical ability, and how some aspects of our current learning environment and higher education can be difficult for certain groups of people to interact with. And I have found that through emerging technologies, that could be virtual and augmented reality, it could be 3D printing and modeling, it could be social annotation, and other digital platforms, multimodal publishing platforms, really do open access to a huge variety of people. When we're talking about libraries specifically, you can think about this in terms of digitizing our archives and collections. So not everyone can physically come to Swarthmore's library and pull out our amazing rare books, the items from our peace collections, the archives from the Friends Historical Library, but we have started the process of digitizing those collections and making them accessible to a huge variety of people and users, no matter what their abilities and interests. So I can see where we can use things like digital annotation software and immersive technologies, especially when we're talking about haptic feedback technology, to really allow so many more people to interact with the incredibly rich collections we have here at Swarthmore.
That's something I feel like I'm just scratching the surface at, is understanding some of these rich collections we have here. I've only seen a few of these collections and I've already been like, wow, where do you even begin with, say, understanding what's in the collection, how you would go about digitizing it, and enabling people to be able to get what they need out of it. So I think that's really awesome that you're thinking about these things and finding new ways that we can solve some of these problems.
And that's, I think, where my history with English literature comes into play, is because I like to tell stories, right? I like to study stories, tell stories, read stories. And what we can do is we can create narrative digital storytelling projects from the collections. So you can curate basically online exhibits that showcase the items we have in our collection through a common theme or topic or really basically a story that you want to tell about the kinds of items we have in our collection. So we have an amazing program called the Lib Lab Fellowship. So Library Laboratory Fellowship, where we train students in digital literacy skills, and then they work with our incredible library staff on building these kinds of online exhibits and projects. And they may range from thinking about how we have a huge amount of journals or diaries from Quaker women in the 18th century, or they could be about queer protests in the 70s here at Swarthmore. They could be really interesting items that we want to 3D model and put 3D models online for folks to be able to interact with. We really have endless possibility, and it's about getting these students their hands-on, right? The hands-on skills to be able to work with these materials, understand how the analog objects can translate into digital formats and what that process entails, and how the analog and the digital are always speaking to each other, right? It's always a conversation between the analog object and the digital manifestation, and never replacing the analog, but really thinking about how the two relate.
So I know you've mentioned a lot of the different things going on at the college, and all of these initiatives sound really great. Are there any specifically that you've either been involved with or excited to get involved with that you might be able to share?
Absolutely. There's 3 big things coming up that I'm really excited about. The first, we've pretty much been talking about this whole time, and that's in fall, we are officially launching the Immersive Realities Initiative, which will be an opportunity for any student, faculty, or staff member to call on the Digital Scholarship team to help them integrate immersive technologies into their event, their course, or their scholarly project. So we have a great interest form that's up on the Digital Scholarship site. You can also find it on the ITS blog, where you can sign up and say, hi, we're doing this cool event and we'd love to use some VR headsets or an AR application in this event to help increase engagement or to display a different aspect of the content that we're hoping, to present to the Swarthmore community. Or faculty can say, I have this unit in my course that I think could be, enhanced, or student engagement could be increased by bringing these emerging technologies into this to match those learning objectives and course goals. So that's really exciting, and you're going to be seeing more about that in the Librarian newsletter, the TLC newsletter, the Lang newsletter is going to be announced across all those newsletters in August, so just keep your eyes peeled to sign up for that. The second big event that I'm really excited about is we are hosting the Immersive Collections Symposium October 13th in the library. We have presenters coming from around the world to talk about how they used library or museum collections, put them into virtual and augmented reality in order to increase access. Our panel is really phenomenal. The panelists will give presentations on how they created their projects. Then we'll have lunch, and in the afternoon, folks will actually get to put on VR headsets and experience the applications themselves. It's co-sponsored by Rare Book School. I'm actually a fellow of Rare Book School. I have a fellowship from Rare Book School at UVA. So they are co-sponsoring the event, and it's going to be really incredible and exciting. The very last thing I'll talk about is Douglas Day. So we hosted Douglas Day this past February, and we're going to be doing it again in February 2024. Douglas Day is a transcribe-a-thon, which means we have archival documents from the University of Delaware and Penn State University that have been digitized by a group called the Colored Conventions Project. These are documents that have to do with the colored conventions in the 19th century, and they need help taking these digitized documents and transcribing them so that researchers can search them digitally, can do data mining and text analysis, and can learn about the people and places involved in these incredible activist meetings. This event was highly attended. We had over 40 people in attendance last year when we held it, so I'm really looking forward to this year's event and just a quick plug, we do have amazing cupcakes and cookies at the event to celebrate Frederick Douglass's birthday, which is February 14th. So it's also a birthday celebration for Frederick Douglass.
I think that's really awesome. You're very active, Amanda. You have a lot going on, a lot of great things you're contributing to, and it makes me excited for some of the possible future things we might see here at the college in digital scholarship. And is there anything you might be able to share about kind of the world in general with digital scholarship and the direction that institutions are going in? I feel like you've already kind of touched on it, but if there's any comments you'd like to make or summary of that, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think the challenge with digital scholarship today is really thinking about how to do meaningful interdisciplinary work. Traditionally, academia is very siloed. We all stay in our own departments, in our own disciplines, and creating pathways for interdisciplinary scholarship can be difficult and can be challenging. So one of the beautiful parts about being in a library is that I can exist in that interdisciplinary space and help facilitate those conversations, which was harder to do when I was a traditional English professor. So I really like to see how these conversations can, benefit from a variety of perspectives across the disciplines. And the other thing that we're seeing that I'm very excited about in digital scholarship is an attention to social justice, to really supporting social justice projects that are driven by diversity and equity, and thinking about how we can do what we in the library world called post-custodial work. So that's when a community comes to us and says, we need help, with our archives, with our collections, with our materials. We don't want to donate them to Swarthmore, but we want you to help us create a new vision for these materials and return them to the community itself. So that gives us an opportunity for Swarthmore to use our resources to help communities in need. And that, to me, is something that students benefit from. It's something that the Swarthmore community benefits from, and it's something that our local communities benefit from. So it's really, mutually beneficial all around.
Well, that's really great. It sounds like we're really going in a positive direction, and Swarthmore in particular is able to kind of support this continued effort in that direction. So I know you talked a bit at the beginning about how your interests and the things you care about aligns a lot with your new position here, which is really awesome. Are there any unique things, they could be serious or they could be funny, things about the culture here at the college or life here now that you've been here that you'd like to share? Anything about what you think Swarthmore is like? It might be something different than other institutions you've been at.
Sure. Well, I talked before about the focus on climate change here, which for me is really phenomenal and is an issue that actually digital scholarship is grappling with right now, right? About these huge server farms and about e-waste and about the human labor behind digital technology. So to be on a campus that is really thoughtful about those topics and that's open to conversation around those topics is great. But wow, the construction getting to that deadline is definitely something that has us feeling a little discombobulated this summer. Navigating a new campus, right? It's a new to me campus, and the pathways change almost every day. So it's been funny learning a campus during a time of change. But I know that the long tail, right? The long-term goals are so important that the temporary disruption is worth it. But I did hear a joke that someone said at Swarthmore, all the plants are labeled, but none of the buildings are. And it's very true. As someone who's new, I really still have no idea where anything is. Mm-hmm. And when people invite me to class to come talk, I have to ask a lot of people directions before I find it. And the construction has certainly not helped me learn my way around campus. So I'm definitely looking forward to when things settle down in terms of construction and I can really learn to navigate this campus and really experience the campus at full capacity.
Well, I'll add a few things to that. I've been here 4 years now, and there's still a lot I'm uncovering. There's still a lot of places I never knew about. Even the radio station, there's a ton of people who've told me they didn't even know there was a radio station up here. And, it's been one of my goals to try to bring some awareness of this place. But I've found that Swarthmore has a lot of history, and there's a lot of threads, I'll call them, of activity, and a lot of times they've been positive and great academic work, that these threads have kind of like continued pursuing, and then it'll kind of die out for a little bit, and someone else will pick up that thread a few years later, or even 5 or 10 years later. And it's surprising how whenever we pick up these threads of some past work that's been done at the college, how much depth and thought has been put into these initiatives. So that's something I've just been amazed by, is with the radio station. There's been so much thought that's gone into how the music collection was previously organized, or how it was previously used, and we've just kind of been picking up that thread. And you'll definitely find there's something that might look like a closet here at the college, where you open up the door and you find out there was another one of these threads that's been kind of dormant for a little while. And the college is ready and willing to support the faculty members, staff, and community students who are willing to put in that extra work to pick up these threads.
Absolutely. I would say that's extremely true with the LibLab Fellowship. So the LibLab Fellowship is in its 9th year. I just started in December, right? So this program was started 9 years ago, and it's just really a testament to the incredible expertise and dedication we have at Swarthmore Libraries, that all of the folks involved in LibLab have built this really rich, vibrant program to give students extraordinary experiences. And you can tell by the number of applicants we had, right? We had an overwhelming number of phenomenal applications for the LibLab Fellowship. I honestly wish I could hire every single one of the students who applied. And just knowing that there's that many students interested in having a new experience, of moving outside of their comfort zone, and that the library has supported this initiative for so long, and that it's been such a collaborative effort across the libraries, it's really a testament to exactly what you said, right? Like the support this university gives to innovation and to student-centered, experiences, and the folks who take the initiative to put those programs into place.
I think it's really awesome. And I didn't want to say it was just faculty and staff. I mean, the college really thinks about students a lot. And when students want to pursue something outside of their normal coursework, there's several opportunities usually for how they can get support and how they can be further encouraged to pursue those initiatives.
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenge is just communicating that these opportunities are available, and to spread the word about the kind of great work that's going on, and making sure that students know all of these opportunities are available to them.
So I did want to come back to the radio station for a moment. With all of your expertise in digital scholarship, in library science, and having been a faculty member before, you have a lot of expertise. Do you have any suggestions for us with the radio station here? We kind of have an archive. We have a large collection of music, some historical audio recordings, and we're really trying to kind of go through that, figure out the best way to organize it, how to preserve some of the more historic artifacts or audio records. And we still have file cabinets of our station's own history going back. We have documents going back to the 50s or even 40s, and we're told that the history goes back a little bit further than that even. But do you have any suggestions for us as we continue to try to regrow this station and make improvements?
This place is absolutely incredible. It's fascinating. And when you were giving me the tour, one thing that really struck me as holding a lot of potential for digital scholarship is the personal stories that are weaved throughout the collection. So for our listeners out there, some of the CD and record cases actually have handwritten annotations on them. So previous DJs and people who worked at the radio station, wrote notes about the importance of the album or their own personal thoughts about the music and the songs and their wider impact. So I'm going to go back to that idea of storytelling and think about, could you tease out some of these threads of stories, like who are these DJs? What stories were they telling in these annotations? Digitize those items and try to create, a digital timeline or interactive timeline that would kind of make visible some of the invisible, lost, understudied, underrepresented stories that are hidden here in this incredible collection that you have. And I think that would be a great project for students who are interested in how, music has been intertwined with history and institutions, and how music really is part of the history of this institution, and how this radio station is part of the history of this institution, and what these personal anecdotes say about the wider, geographic and political climate that they were written in.
I think that's a really amazing suggestion. We just have so many neat and meaningful stories associated with this radio station. I would love to dedicate more time to just delving deeper into those stories, digitizing them in some way, and telling them to the community. I have a couple off the top of my head. So I believe in the 90s, one of the audio broadcasting equipment broke, and they said, we can't stop broadcasting. So they called the manufacturer, which was in New Jersey. They drove that night, convinced them to fix it overnight, and they fixed it and drove it back. And by the next day, they I don't think they slept very much. They were back on the air. We had another story. I just couldn't believe this, but I'm told that the station used to broadcast 24/7 with actual students or faculty members in the station broadcasting. And that's hard to believe now. A lot of our systems are meant for playing recordings through the night and keeping us on the air using all the modern software. But they used to actually have a person here speaking all hours of the night. And I met some of the alums who had the 3 a.m. shift, the 4 a.m. shift, the 5 a.m. shift. I couldn't believe it. This was during the alumni open house we had a month or two ago. And yeah, some of those stories are just kind of unbelievable from my perspective, just to see how much effort and care was put into the station. But I just wanted to say again, thank you so much, Amanda. You've been an amazing guest. We really appreciate you being on our show. And the last thing I just wanted to say, are there any other things you wanted to mention? Any last comments? This is your chance.
Really just a reminder that the library is here for all students, faculty, and staff, and local community members. We can be a resource for you. Don't be afraid to come ask us for help. Don't be scared off by the construction. Come into McCabe or Underhill or the Science Library and ask us questions. We have really so much to give and so much to offer, and we would love to partner with you and collaborate with you on your projects.
Thank you so much, Amanda. And again, this is I'm Michael Wehar, broadcasting here from Swarthmore College's 91.5 FM. And we're signing off for today. And again, we're just very fortunate to have had you as a guest.
Thank you.